So you find that diuretics affect prior to an event, the week before an event, and describe the dosage pattern of the specific aldactone you utilize.
Right.
Is there any masking agent to
For aldactone, I don't believe so, but on the diuretic, before I answer that, incidentally, I did have, now explain how I took the dosages that first time. I had them written down. Now the next time I gave aldactone, it was a higher dosage. And I didn't clarify that it was a higher dosage. I just assumed that it was the same thing I got before. It was twice the amount. So I followed the same procedure. And on the day of the show, I looked great, but I was sick to my sick. I could barely carb up. I was nauseated. I could barely, take in my carbohydrates to fill my physique out. I could barely eat. Even after the prejudging, I was so nauseated I could barely conduct an interview. I just wanted to be left alone. I got back to my hotel room, and it was so hard to eat food. And it was, something that I would otherwise find really palatable, delicious. And I could barely get it in. I could barely drink water and everything. And then I realized later that it was because I had taken too much. And I also took herbal energy tablets to have the stamina to pose on stage. So herbs on your stomach, on an empty stomach, combined with your electrolytes being topsy-turvy, I've never felt sicker at a competition. And later I learned that that's what it was. It was from diuretics. And I thought I was following everything to the letter, but I neglected to make sure to confirm what I had taken before and confirm, what I was taking this time. So there's an incident of my own personal experience it was pretty harrowing. Now you asked me something just now. Masking agents.
For diuretics.
Okay.
Since those are the only things that on the top pro shows you're being tested for.
Now the list is quite extensive, but there's always a couple of things that aren't up there. I this year learned of something that one of the reigning pros, if not the reigning pro, was, now this was said, I can't swear to it, this was told to me, I'm not trying to gossip, but I'm just stating what someone mentioned to me. And since then I've, learned that the person that trained him for it has a few tricks up his sleeve. It's heard that he used and you'll find that this is, I'm not the only person that knows about this. This is, and I shouldn't have known about it, you know what I mean? So it was just being discussed behind, oh yeah, he used this. That's why he looked shoulders above everybody else at this show and at that show. An IV drip. I don't know exactly how it works, but there's something in that they drip an IV into the arm, like the night before the show. I've also heard mentioned from the same source of expertise that some blood dope might have been used or incorporated, or that could be how they made that work.
An IV drip would be in regards
intravenous, sorry, hand in front of my face again. Intravenous drip into the arm.
What specific drug at this?
I can't remember the name. It's some weird name, and with an M. There's also a diuretic that is not detectable, begins with an M. So
this would be a means to get around the test?
This is the means to get around the test.
Diuretics.
Yes.
I see.
And this guy, one hands down, of course he's like one of the sport's favorite sons, according to this sanctioning body. He can do no wrong, but he was head and shoulders, phenomenal shape, deserved the win, he looked great, you know, that year, or those 2 shows. And I was in those shows, but he looked great. He looked phenomenal. He deserved to win. He was the best man that day. But an IV, you know, how, even...
This is something you haven't done, but you're pretty sure this is what's some of the top guys are doing.
Yes, and since then, the guy that's been mentoring him on it has been helping out a few other professionals and sort of expanding his stable and becoming sort of a guru, if you will.
Do you have any idea what's in the IV drip?
You know, they told me, but it's like something I never heard of, and I only heard it about 2 or 3 times, and a lot's gone on, you know, since then, and I wish I could recall it. Yeah, I'd state it right here.
You mentioned before, real quick, escalene and another
Acetylene.
drug. Acetylene and something similar to that?
Yes, acetylene is an inflammatory, water-based irritant that's injected directly into the muscle.
Before the event, primarily?
Well, actually a couple of days, or before.
Okay.
I mean, even this same guy that I just mentioned about the IV drip, in '93, he was winning. It was said that he used to hit each body part with it.
Now, the other drug that you're talking about, is it like that drug?
Okay, now that's newer.
Called?
It's called Synthol.
What would be like the, how many cc's would you put into a muscle, like the bicep?
I think you would put about half per time.
What have you done?
I've never used that.
Okay.
That's out. And, you know, it's been offered to me, you know.
Okay, but let's go with the acetylene then.
The acetylene I have used.
How many cc's in a bicep, or?
1.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not trying to...
You would never use like 10 or 20 cc's?
No, I think that'd be a big... You have a leg and a big deformed trunk.
You find it actually does increase the muscle size upon injection site
What
immediately?
Yes, yes. And not to a great degree, but then again, I never tried to blow up my entire muscle. If my outer bicep, I wanted to be a little bit more fuller on that day, I would hit it there, and it would give the desired effect. And it was temporary. One thing that I would like to touch on and emphasize is that the whole reason that I'm discussing this here today is because I really believe that this tape will help some people, and I wanted to educate them. Not to paint the athletes out as Frankenstein monsters, because it's not about, I mean, I'm definitely as in as anyone, but there's a lot of things that I won't do for the sport, and also the feeling of being drawn into it and feeling that you must do this in order to remain competitive. And that's what I think is the real shame, is how far do we have to go in order to be deemed great champions? And what, you know, when did being healthy and looking good cease, and we step into chemical warfare so much that we don't even look at the effects? And what will we accept in terms of what we will do? And how far will that go? I have come personally, I've dreaded having to stick myself. Coming to a competition, when you get leaner and leaner, you get sore from the injection sites.
So you have to change the injection site.
Yes, and you start looking for, ow, that still hurts, you know. And closer to a show, the water-based drugs are in and out of your system faster, so you have to do them every other day instead of just twice a week. It's a dread. It's a sense of dread. It's something that I hate having to do. And I hate the negative connotation of being along with it. I enjoy training. I always have. I enjoy the lifestyle and the look, the positive things that it's brought me. But one thing I honestly hate, and this is from the heart, is having to address the issue to people that don't understand what I've been through or don't know me as a person or how hard I've worked. and they see some short expose on steroids, and you know, they think they're being brilliant by going, oh, steroids, you take steroids, right? And it's like, I don't want to discuss it with you. You're a moron. I mean, you don't know what you're talking about. So, you know, if I could discuss it and actually teach you something, then it would be worth discussing with you. But the negative connotation that goes along with it, I consider myself a hard-working professional athlete, but I don't enjoy carrying the stigma of being a steroid user. And I'm not one prone to roid rages and all of this and that.
Does that exist?
I think that it, like some other drugs, may magnify who you are. If you're a jackass without them, then you'll be twice the jackass on certain, under certain conditions. Now, the average Joe, if he hasn't eaten in 3 hours, he's going to be cranky. But the average grandma that hasn't eaten in 3 hours will be a little, you know, erratic around the edges, you know. But I really believe that this tape will help people. Coming up as a youth, I didn't, all I saw was that I wanted to be a professional, and it has progressed quite a bit since that time. But I do want people to not view it as, oh, these guys are freaks and monsters and drug heads, because it's not that simple. There's a lot of fine athletes and a lot of fine people in the sport, but it's just a shame that we're drawn down this road. And the sad part is the establishment, the officials, the administration, the powers that be, they're just kind of standing by long enough to make the money. And I believe that if our health was such an issue, naturally they're testing for diuretics because they don't want anyone else dying. And if they're emphasizing that it's for our own good and for our health, why aren't they testing for steroids? Because we make much better products and sell many more magazines with the enhancement of steroids than without. I personally think the team champions would be at the top because of hard work and genetics and diligence and nutrition and what have you. So with that, I just wanted to, you know, contribute to maybe enlightening somebody about it, and not in a negative way, because one thing I do resent personally is someone that has no genetics, they've tried to win at bodybuilding at a certain level, and just didn't have what it takes. And then they go on this anti-steroid crusade where they slam pro bodybuilding and they call us muscle heads and they call us drug monsters and all in this. But they tried to do the same thing and failed, and then decided to go on a crusade. I really resent that a lot. You know, there's magazines and there are people that always have to bash. And that's just a pet peeve that I don't have much respect for. But, you know, I thank you for listening, and I hope that...
Thank you. Appreciate your involvement very much, and hopefully we will educate and we will teach some of the up-and-coming guys really what it's all about, and not to expose the dirty laundry of sport form of bodybuilding or other sports, but to make a difference in the sense that we educate, and maybe there's less abusive procedures they will follow, and at least get the real understanding of what the sport has evolved to at this point, because it's something that we, in fact, we do love. It's where we live, it's where we come from, it's our home, it's our neighborhood, and we care about. And at this point, it's time, I think, somebody really addresses this subject and talks about the way it really is and what's honestly happening in hopes that there will be less abusive procedures, less deaths in the sport, and more education, and hopefully maybe, as I said, less use, and maybe if the testing were to get real, and it could be real, I understand this, and the IOC is increasing their standards, maybe there'll be a level playing field, and it will be a lot safer to compete in today's environment, which at this point, as you referred to, chemical warfare, and that's the reason for this tape. And again, it's not to expose the dirty laundry, to expose athletes by any means. It's merely to educate and to help the problem and to help alleviate some of the problems involved in our sport. Well, I appreciate you being here very much, and I want you to know, and you know, as the audience does know at this point, that your identity is completely disguised and you are not recognizable. So I invite you to speak freely and openly and honestly, and really, I know you're not used to doing that probably, but the nature of this video is just that, addressing the issues in terms of honesty. But important to do that, mainly because we can make a difference to the viewer. I mean, for the first time, I think they can hear the issues presented in terms of reality, rather than avoiding the issue, pretending it doesn't exist, and or lying to the up-and-coming athletes who are vying for position in various sport form. Right. Okay, so I guess my first question to you would be, what made you decide? What situation in your life made you decide that you were going to use steroids?
Well, when I was 16 years old, I did my first bodybuilding show. I had been training since I was like 14. I was doing like upper body and kind of skipping out on legs and stuff like that. And so I realized that, you know, this gym was putting on a contest in Fort Ord. It was like some military contest or whatever. And my dad was in the military, so I went in it as a teenager at 16, and it was just me and another kid. And so I had won. So that was kind of like the top, you know, I won, and people were telling me, hey, you look good, you keep doing them. As you get older, you'll get better. So I started training hard. I didn't know nothing about steroids. I'd heard about them and stuff, but, you know, I didn't really, you know, from a small town where I was from, you know, just didn't hear too often about what was going on, and not anything about any knowledge about any other drug. But when I competed again for the year later at 17, I did a Mr. California teenage show, and it was an AAU contest, and the kid that won it, he was 19 and I was 17, and this kid looked so incredible. I mean, he could have, I think he did win the men's open class too. Wow. And he just looked, I was just like, was shocked that a 19-year-old looked like that. That's when I knew in my head I would rather, you know, I wanted to take the risk. You know, it wasn't going to be, I didn't think it was that big of a risk. So I just figured I need to do something to get that big by the time I'm 19. Okay, so you were 19 when you initiated your first program? Yeah. Okay. And at that time, the people that you know, I didn't know, I didn't ask for and stuff. You go into a gym and somebody says, hey, you want this? And I've had that approach to me when I was younger, and I said no. But when it happened again, the guy, he gave me some, I think it was some testosterone, cypionate, and I think some Deca, and he told me, he gave me one Cestanon shot. This is a booster. You take this, and 2 weeks later, and he's going to just totally change you. So here I am, taking this stuff, and I find out later it's all sesame oil because the guy was running fake stuff, and then that's, so I figured my first cycle was fake, and I think that just wanting it to work, I trained harder, that much harder, and it worked. I mean, I did get bigger, but I think maybe one of the drugs was good. Which probably was the test. To start, what because I got, I think it was cypionate. Okay. Because I did get a little puffy, and I gained like 20 pounds. You know, and it wasn't really hard muscle. It was just, you know, bloated puffiness and stuff like that, because I didn't know how to eat right. I didn't know how to, you know, diet. I didn't know how much protein I should have took in and stuff. I didn't do that much reading up on it. Kind of just went by what everybody was, you know, saying. Okay, I guess at this point, you mentioned cypionate being something you responded very favorably to. Right. Testosterone, cypionate. What other drugs do you have in your, I guess, your mind at this point, and relate to us that you found? Winstrol was one of the favorites that I loved it. I mean, I found out, you know, after a few contests that I had a friend of mine tell me that that's all he took, and he looked incredible, and actually he was a professional, and you know, these guys aren't going to tell you what they take and stuff, and they kind of hide it and stuff. So I've imagined for a couple of years that Winstrol was all he took, you know, Winstrol V, that you know, you take that and that's it. So I was just taking that, maybe, you know, cycling it with some Deca, and, you know, a couple, maybe, I tried Anadrol, like 19 tabs of it, and I started getting headaches and stuff, so I dropped that. I was real scared of the steroids and stuff.
I guess when you started putting together your first constructive cycle, what the drugs were cypionate or no?
Yeah.
Cypionate. How much cypionate in terms of dosage per day?
I did 200 milligrams twice a week.
Okay.
And then I did Winstrol 1 cc every other day.
Okay.
And then I did that for a couple shows until I was like 21, 22. And then that's when I moved to Southern California. And that's when I really got the knowledge of what to take and what these guys were doing to look like they, you know, what they did. And I think my off-season cycle was like 200 milligrams or 250 milligrams twice a week of Cestanon, 200 milligrams twice a week of, I think it was an Ananthate, and then it would be like 5 or 6 Anavar twice a day, every day. And I'd do that up until like 6 to 8 weeks out from a show, and then I'd just switch it to Winstrol. And then Winstrol, Primobolan, and Parabolan. Okay. And I'd take 2 shots of Parabolan, which were 76 milligrams. I'd take that a week with 1 every 3 days of Primobolan, and I'd take Winstrol 1 cc a day. A day, okay. Yeah, and then as I got on with the shows, then I kind of learned about diuretics and stuff like that. Okay, we'll go in in a moment. We'll go into that. But did you stop your drug intake prior to the show ever, or is that a consideration? Yeah, I did it. I stopped everything. I turned everything out on like the last week. Last week I'd get off of everything. Okay. Did you cycle the? Did you go up and down, or just? And I might have done that one or twice, but normally I would just stick to a certain dosage, and that's all. I'd run it all the way through for like 12 weeks. Up until the last week before the show. Right. Okay, I see. So. Okay. So off season, let's say, how long did you prepare for a show usually, or do you prepare? Usually 16 weeks. Okay. So if you're preparing 16 weeks or 4 months, that's the on, as you're calling it, yes? Right, so, before a show. Okay, and then the off season. Actually, I'd take more stuff before a show than I would in the off season. Off season, I would just stick to basic drugs like, you know, test and maybe, or you know what, I was taking halotestin right before the show too. But I usually stick with test and Winstrol. You know, I liked Winstrol. I just did something for. It was the veterinarian kind. Right, Winstrol V. Yeah, Winstrol V. So there may be some years then where you would be on some form of steroid all year long? I think it would be mostly Winstrol all year round, but the other ones I'd get on, like the test, any form of test or androgen, I would get on for 8 weeks, and then I'd get off for like at least 8 weeks. But I'd stay on Winstrol all year round. I see. Okay. Dosages went up to, you just went over some dosages. Do you have a number as far as? A cc of Winstrol 16 weeks out from a contest every day, and then in the off season just 1 cc every other day. Okay. Was there a weekly or a daily milligram dosage that a formula you had, or no, not really? Not really. I just went by how many I had and how I wanted to make them last. Okay. Yeah, basic. I understand. I've heard a lot of guys out there that, you know, they knew exactly what they were doing every day. I did that once, and you know, it's just too confusing. I feel like your butt's a pincushion. Yeah, I imagine. Okay, well, besides you know, the steroids, of course, you know, a lot of discussion in the magazines and in the industry is about growth hormone. Is that something you've ever utilized, and if so, do you find it effective? I've used it. I used it twice. The first time I had a friend give it to me with no money, just said, "Here, I want you to do good." He gave me like, I think $3,000 worth of stuff.
How many cc's did you take a day of that?
Actually, I took 4 IUs.
IUs
a day, four IUs a day. And
prior to the
I
show?
was prior to the show, and I did a show before without it, and then I did a show with it, and I gained like 9 pounds, and it was harder and more cut and bigger than I was 3 months before when I didn't have it.
So you found it effective?
I felt really good, but that was the only time. That was the only time I ever felt like that. And the other times, I did it and it just didn't do the same. Maybe it was fake or something. But I think the first time I did it was Procho, the 92 amino acid. And I guess the 91 is the most popular they use nowadays. So supposedly that wasn't supposed to be the one that works good, but it worked great for me.
That's very interesting. It seems like everything, we've been talking to a few different athletes all day. Everyone has similar feelings about certain things, but some diversified situations. Imagine being a chemistry, a different body. Everyone responds differently to a degree, to give a different system, give it to a different system of intake. Okay, well, does insulin for you go along with GH, or is that a consideration?
I've never tried insulin.
Okay.
I've maybe taken a couple units or whatever, but it never did what everybody was doing. It never did that for me, and I didn't want to go higher. Just kind of really scared of it. So many people say that you can turn diabetic from it, and I just didn't want to take that risk.
So primarily then the steroids with the GH.
Right. And then I heard of IGF-1 and stuff, and I never tried that either. So.
Okay. Well, next I'd like to sort of segue into diuretics. I mean, is there any usage you've followed or any
I took, right before the show, I was taking L-Dactone 7 days out, I think 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon, up until the show, and then I'd take, I think a Diazide or L-Dactazide on Friday afternoon and Friday night before I go to bed, and then however I looked in the morning, I would determine if I needed another one or not. Then I'd use other methods like, the Epsom salt baths and stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Just soak out the water. One time I did it too long, and I started puking, throwing up, and I couldn't stop. So I had to take one of those meal replacement drinks really fast, so that it digested my body, and then it just stopped. That was perfect. I felt like I was going to die, though.
Yeah, I can imagine. Any problems with diuretics ever?
No, because I've always been kind of shy on that. I never, I've seen guys drop it backstage and stuff, and I just didn't. I thought that would be more embarrassing, I just never got that far into it.
How about as far as any, scary or frightening episodes with any of the drugs at all? I mean.
Yeah, I had with Winstrol. I've had two staph infections that I had to have cut out and drained.
From injecting
the
same area?
Yep, same area. Running out of needles, and not be able to find any more, so you use the same one over and over, trying to use alcohol to clean it out, and sometimes it just doesn't do it. And, sometimes it's just dry, and you can't get nothing. Nobody has anything, so. So I had 2 operations on that, and then that was pretty much it. All the other things, I've heard other guys, puking up blood and stuff, and getting bloody noses from Anadrol and stuff like that, but that's never happened to me. I've just never abused the drugs. I think using them and abusing them is different. And, I mean, probably before a show, it's probably the only time I abuse, if ever, more than I really need, just because I want to win so bad.
Are there any non-steroidal or over-the-counter drugs that you find effective, like Andro or GH enhancers? Or
actually, I've never even really taken minerals and vitamins and stuff like that until like the last 5, 6 years. Before I figured if they were over the counter, they didn't work. So that's pretty much that. And then I think, like, amino acids and stuff like that. I'll just throw in, you know, just chuck them. Just makes me feel good to know that maybe I'm getting more extra protein and stuff like that. But I never really got technical with that.
You know, in the magazines, how accurate do you think the magazines are when they report about the extent of drug use in the sport, in bodybuilding? Do you think they're accurate, or?
Well, yeah, I guess so. I mean, it depends on what kind of article they're writing. I mean, if they're trying to scare somebody, yeah, there are people out there that do some crazy stuff. I mean, I know a guy that he was taking so much stuff, he started doing squats, and he was bleeding out his ears, and he still wanted to complete the set. And he was taking like 6 cc's of Cestonol, like 10 Anadrol in the morning, 10 at night. I mean, the guy was loading up on so much stuff, and he wasn't even a bodybuilder. He was just a skinny little kid that just wanted to get big and huge, and his friend told him to take this and he'll grow, and he just thought more was better, and he just started going off. When I heard about that, I just couldn't believe it. You know, it's just ridiculous.
How about like things like blocking agents? Have you ever considered those or used those?
You mean like Nolvadex?
Nolvadex.
What's the other one?
Clomid.
Clomid, no.
HCG, things that...
Yeah, I've heard it using HCG while you're on your cycle helps a great deal for your body's whole natural testosterone to kick in. But you know, in this sport, you're just struggling to get what you need, you know, and who has it, and if you can afford it, and stuff like that. So I mean, I think little things like that you seem to bypass most of the time. But when you get ready for a show, it's one of those, you know, things that you might need to have just to get that edge. So maybe like Nolvadex or what's that other one?
Clomid, Nolvadex.
It's like Nolvadex. It's
HCG.
It's a blocker. That's the one I use. Proviron. That's the one I used. I used that, and it seemed to work good. Kept the water off. When you were taking steroids? Right. Just prior to a con, 6 to 8 weeks. From
in terms of what you...
I used to have a problem with gyno.
Okay.
Until I got it cut out.
I see. Okay, right.
So I had to, and I was really always shy off of, that's what kept me away from a lot of testosterons and androgenics. I mean, most of the time, I mean, my theory was basically, if you're going to get on a stack or a cycle, I was always going to say 2 anabolics and 1 androgen. And that's always worked for me, and I've heard other guys doing 2 androgens and, you know, 1 anabolic, and, you know, I just never liked that puffy, zitty kind of fat look, you know, just never really did anything for me. And, I mean, there was a couple times I got to that point, and, you know, I'd lose feeling in my hands and my arms, and, you know, my legs would fall asleep, you know, I'd always be in some uncomfortable position, and it was because of the water retention, and I was so uncomfortable. So I basically stayed off of the androgens a lot and just stuck with the anabolics. They kept me hard, they kept the body fat down. I always, you know, felt good, great pumps in the gym. It wasn't like it was my circulation in my arms or any other body parts, so I stuck with the anabolics.
The Proviron you mentioned, the main effect of that, which was useful to your program, was the fact that it blocked the estrogen?
Yeah, from what they say, yeah. I mean, you know, you really don't know what the drug is actually doing because it's so long for it to you know, aromatize or whatever in your body. But yeah, they said, I was told that it blocks off the estrogen from you know, making it in your body, and it also had some anabolic effects. So that was helping some catabolic effects from eating the muscle and stuff like that. So I took that into hand. You know, why not use that instead of Nolvadex, which was just a blocker? Why not have both worlds, you know?
I understand. Your opinion of the roid rage syndrome, is that something that really does occur?
You know what, my opinion is, I think a lot of guys are weak when it comes in the mind, and I think they use that as an excuse. Yes, it might. I mean, I've controlled it pretty good. I don't think I consider myself having roid rages even when I'm on and stuff, because I know how I should feel and what I'm feeling, but I think maybe when you're unaware of what you're on and is doing and stuff, maybe you would tend to get angry and overdo it. But maybe in the younger crowd. But if you know what you're doing and you know what you're taking, I think you can control it. But I think a lot of people out there want to be, stronger. I don't know, maybe it's a macho thing or something. I just really didn't connect with me. Especially when a woman uses it against you, man, you get pissed off, and it isn't so much the drugs, it's just, it's just an argument, and then they start pointing the finger,
right.
It's your roid, you're on those roids, man, those roids are making you this way, and you're just like, no, it's not, but, yeah, it's a lose-lose situation when that comes around.
But obviously, I think you probably feel that steroids are necessary and GH is necessary to some degree to compete on today's stage.
Exactly, yeah. But when they're taken out of hand, then that's when the roid rages and all the other side effects probably happen.
How about things like the escalene, where they inject into the muscle for temporary inflammatory type drugs?
I've tried that. In fact, I don't know if I'm not putting it in right or what, but these guys, I've heard they inject themselves everywhere about, in weak points that they have in their body and stuff, but I don't know. I think it's just a cheating way of doing it. I feel like if you can't do it, not naturally, but if you can't do it that way, and try to form your body by building it, you're just cheating, And it doesn't look right anyways, because it takes away the cuts anyway, you know what I mean? I mean, you can usually tell who's pumping their stuff up with, stuff. I don't like it, because I like the good look,
I understand. I guess that would probably be the same thing as doing implants to some degree. It looks like...
It's not real. It doesn't look good when it's flexed. I mean, maybe to some people it does, but I'm not going to go that far into competing,
Okay.
Steroids is bad enough.
Yeah. In your opinion, do you feel that the bodybuilding stage, that we're pushing genetics to the ultimate edge?
Yeah, I think it's going a little too far. I think if you compare the 80s, or the 70s and 80s bodybuilders compared to the 90s, I think in the judging is basically pushing people out the door, man. They're croaking because it's just a certain look that they want to look like, I mean, they need to take it down some.
So what you're saying is the judges are judging the drug look.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're going to give them a drug look to do well, right?
Right.
Okay, I don't mean to paraphrase you, but it's...
Yeah, it's the drug look, basically. I mean, you can tell who's doing more and who's not.
Would you go far as to say it's chemical warfare?
Yeah, and in all sports, too.
Yeah.
It's not just bodybuilding. I mean, the Olympics, they got ways of disguising these drugs, and they're the best at it anyway, so they got hired people to do this, so we're the Rugrats compared to this.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Okay, well, is there any other comments you'd care to share with our viewers along the lines of, I mean, you've said quite a bit already. Is there anything else that you care to add?
It's just steroids are, they're just like any other drug. I mean, you can get addicted to it. Most of the bodybuilders that you see that are on them are pretty much addicted to them because they just don't want to stop looking the way they do. And if you're going to take steroids, I think, man, you need to be mentally prepared for, the consequences that they come with. And, if you abuse your body and you take more stuff than you should, you know if you're doing something right or wrong. And trying it and loading it up is two different things. You just got to be careful. Because nobody's going to tell you what to do, but you definitely need to be smart about it.
I guess the question I have for you at this point would be, what is your formula for success, and what would you how can you put that in a few statements?
I think look in the mirror, find somebody in a magazine that you resemble or what you would like to look like, and go to the gym, start working out, and start noticing gains in your body, and just give it 100%. But just know how to supplement your bodybuilding with your lifestyle so that you don't let it overpower your whole life and make people miserable, and the ones that love you and stuff like that, because that tends to happen a lot.
As far as like, being so dedicated that you can't do anything in your life. Mm-hmm. But, putting in the hour and a half you need to be intense is in the gym, and that's it. And then outside of that, it's just eating, and dedicate yourself to, eating good foods and a lot of protein. And, it's pretty, you can have fun with it, and don't be miserable about it doing it. One question I have for you is, do you feel that, whoever has the most money and afford the most GH and related drugs is the winner, or could be the winner?
Of course, because it's just like any kind of like car race or jet ski race. Anybody that has the more technology and the more money to spend on that engine, you can afford more horsepower, so you're going to win the race. That has a lot to do with bodybuilding and any other sport. It's who has the resources, most resources, and who can afford the resources. It's really, and it takes genetics, but the people that do have the genetics, those are the people that can afford that stuff. And they just keep getting, it's like the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer.
That's an interesting point. So like building a race engine almost.
Right.
If you're winning at the track.
You can't put in regular gas, you got to put in super unleaded. If you can afford super unleaded, if it's like, and you got a connection on that, then you're going to be a better athlete. But that's where the strategies. That's why you don't hear anybody talking about what they do with the drugs and what they do with the diet and all that kind of stuff. They do tell you, they lead you around in another direction, and nobody really wants to tell you.
Yeah, which is
they're secure with themselves and they really don't care.
Yeah.
But then again, that's again the purpose of this video production is to address it like in terms of what's really happening, and say things like we were not able to say in other forms.
Yeah, well, people don't want to hear it either. And I think it's BS, because a lot of guys, when they do tell you, they BS a lot.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's not the truth.
In terms of nutritional ratios, protein related to carbohydrates and fats, do you have any ideas or strong feelings about those ratios?
Usually when I'm trying to stay lean in the off season, let's say I'm off of everything, trying to clean myself out, I'll stick more to lighter foods like chicken, fish, any kind of shellfish and stuff like that, and potatoes and rice. And then when I'm on my cycling for, getting bigger for the contest and stuff, I'll stick more to red meats. Still with the rice, maybe up my fats a little more. And then kicking the aerobics is when I just start kicking in all the protein. I'll just take in mostly protein, and I'll kind of, like in the morning I'll have a little bit mostly of my carbs and stuff. I'll have like a lot of egg whites and egg yolks with it, whole eggs, and then maybe some, like a small bowl of oatmeal and some fruit, and then the next meal I'll have just a protein shake, and then maybe a couple scoops of peanut butter, and then for lunch maybe a steak, and a really fat steak or something like that, and maybe a potato and some vegetables. And then after that I'll just keep eating more protein shakes, and like more chicken and rice maybe right before I work out. And then after that, just protein and vegetables.
In terms of calories per day, it varies from off-season to on-season, I assume.
I take in about, in the off-season I really don't count. I don't count the calories. I just eat the protein, and then whatever fat's in there is just in there. And then if I need to cut back or get leaner, if I feel a little fat, I'll just cut out the carbs. I won't eat the carbs. I'll just have like maybe a couple chicken breasts and some salad or something. And if I need to get fat from then, I'll just maybe switch it to a steak or something if I feel like you know, I'm getting too lean, or, you know, if I feel like my muscles aren't full enough, so I'll try to get some of that creatine out of the steak and pump up a little bit. It makes me feel a little harder and bigger. Each food just does different stuff to me, and whatever mood I'm in or whatever, how I feel my body feels, I kind of just judge it by that, and I eat whatever I think I need. It's after all these years, you kind of figure out what you run on.
Do you count calories before show?
No, I never count calories. I never write down anything. So I feel like if your body's different, I mean, you don't burn the same amount of calories every day. Why should you eat the same amount? Yeah.
So you don't really record grams of protein, carbohydrates, or fat. You don't have those grams recorded. And
no, pretty much diet, especially when when I'm on GH, it's pretty much only probably the last week prior to the show I do. I'm more self-conscious of the amount of chicken breast and the amount of carbs and the amount of fat. I'll take 2 tablespoons of peanut butter and stuff, and I'll have that same amount every day. You know what I mean? And then if I need to adjust anything, I just adjust, either pose a little harder that day, or sweat a little bit more, or burn a little more calories, and I just keep everything else the same.
You mentioned the GH, though. When you're on GH, you feel you can almost eat anything you want?
Oh, yeah. 16 weeks out from the show, when I did that one show, I was eating cake, ice cream after my meals and stuff. And it was weird because if I didn't eat that, I felt like I was dwindling away. And so it's like, I heard other people doing this too, and I was just getting harder and looking better and better, and it was amazing. I was tripping.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so I mean, that's where you get addicted to the drugs, because you do see how they really work, especially right before a show. You see the difference, what it does to you, and that's what pretty much convinces you that saying no doesn't mean no.
What do you mean saying no doesn't mean no?
They say no to drugs.
I understand. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for helping us out today. We're going to address a lot of sensitive issues today, and I want to assure you that your identity will be protected in terms of the viewing audience, okay? It's important to me, otherwise I wouldn't agree to do this. So often the issue is not addressed. The steroid issue in all sport form today is avoided, not addressed, not talked about as if it doesn't exist. And having seen a lot of close friends of mine encounter some problems recently, I feel personally strongly the issue should be addressed in terms of honesty, in terms of education for future upcoming athletes, and that's not done enough. And so, if we can do that today, which we will, by not exploiting who you really are, and if we openly and honestly, that's the reason that's the way I would like to proceed, and that's the reason I'm here in the first place. And I hope you understand that. And I do thank you very much for being here and agreeing to be candid with us, and of course, with your identity completely disguised.
Thanks.
Thank you. First of all, the question I have to ask you is, what brought you to the steroid table in the first place?
Well, it's, when I was young, I always liked muscles, always intrigued by strength and the whole, cartoon character look of, the strength, just muscle in general. And I didn't know much about anything that can, help you get bigger or whatever, other than the protein drinks and the liver pills that, that was available through the stores at the time. And I was lifting weights as a kid, started at a young age. And once I got to college, someone pointed out an individual who was pretty large, and they said, yeah, he takes anabolic steroids. And so right then and there, I was like, okay, I got to find out what this is about, So I started reading about it and looking at different bodybuilders in the magazines, and figuring, okay, this is what this is what's going on. So I read about it for a few years before I tried it.
How old were you when you first started your first steroid cycle?
I was 18.
Okay, and that was, you were competing then?
I competed before I took anything. I was I trained for about 5 or so years, and I started competing for about 2 years. And after that, you know, even when I found out about, you know, people taking steroids, this and that, you know, I was like, man, maybe that's why I'm taking second and not winning or something like that. And I didn't have any idea what was, what was behind, you know, getting that harder look of the muscle or losing more water between the muscle and the skin, that type of thing.
Okay. So it was basically, in order to compete on the bodybuilding stage, if everyone else is doing it, you have to do it to get that edge. Am I hearing you correctly?
Basically, and you know, I wanted to see, you know, what would happen if I took more, or if I took something, or whatever, you know, just like everyone else was doing. So but like I said, I tried to take the smarter route and at least be educated about what I was getting into, and so, you know, like I said, I read about it for a good 2 years, 2.5 years, before I tried anything.
Okay. Again, proceeding with our basic statements and thoughts we were aligning ourselves with, my next question would be, what kind of steroids by name have you found most effective in your training?
Right now or back then?
Well, I guess all through the course of your career.
Well, the Dynaball, which is always you know, like the first thing a lot of people take, or, you know, a personal favorite, that, Equipoise, there's the regular testosterone, different types of testosterone cypionate and things of that nature. Winstrol and the more hardening drugs like, say, back then we can get stuff like Phenojet and, you know, different things like that. But a lot of it's hard to find now is a number of, you know, different kinds I tried, but now you just go for what's available, what you think is real, or, you know, sometimes a lot of things not even real, what you're taking and you thought you was taking something.
Yeah, it's a definite concern. I can understand that. Well, so basically, it's what's available and what you can get a hold of, and hopefully it's real.
Right.
Does the European market ever come into play? And
yeah,
I mean,
yes, a lot of paraballins and primobalin used to be able to get, like, back in the day. There's the growth hormone, which is now playing a key role in a lot of people's arsenal.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, it's...
Let's talk about, like, currently, what you're using and what kind of dosages you might be using in terms of the androgenic and the anabolic material as such.
Currently, I could take growth hormone and use about 9 IUs a day.
How long might that be for?
As long as you can afford it.
Yes, I can understand that. So prior to a contest only?
It all depends. I've used it in the off season. I use it for competition.
What's better results for you?
I like to use it getting ready for competition because you seem to burn a lot more body fat, and you know, your energy levels are high, your nitrogen levels are high. You know, you're really energetic and you're strong. And
can you eat anything you want to when you're on growth hormone?
Can I what?
Can you eat anything you want to?
I do it anyway. You know, I tend to be able to cheat a little bit more. And I've been getting really good results from it. Yeah. That and that's my favorite. I like Anadrol, the different types of Anadrol that's available now.
Staying with it before we go on to the steroids, the GH or the growth hormone.
Okay.
It's like if you're, I realize that if you could take it all year long, you take it all year long. If you could afford, is that what you're Am I hearing you
I
right?
probably wouldn't myself. No, I'm not like a person who would, you know, that's my favorite thing to do is take a lot of drugs and you know, this type of nature.
God, I don't mean to say it that way.
Well, no, I don't know. I probably could if I were, you know, but that's very expensive to do something like that.
Well, before an event nowadays, like say, and we don't want to name
How far out? Or
How far out?
maybe 12 weeks out.
Okay, 12 weeks out and 9 hours a day. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that's pricey for sure.
Yeah.
And now moving on from the growth hormone, stepping back into the steroid arena, prior to an event, are the steroids different than they would be in the off season?
You would cycle. Well, personally, I would start out like 15 weeks out.
Okay.
If I had my way.
Okay, let's go.
15 weeks out, and I would use the heavier, more water-retentive type substances about
Like,
for like the D-ball, the Equipoise, Anadrol. I would use the Clenbuterol with that, and I would start switching to more hardening things like halotestin and cytogen and Winstrol and Primobolan and say Cytomel. I would start that. That's all in my. And I want to when I'm starting the phase into getting a little harder.
which is like
Usually like around 8 to 6 weeks out.
Okay, okay.
I started like this cytogen. I would take it like 5 weeks out or something like that. And
Now, do you?
and that's even pushing it a little bit.
Okay. Do you usually start with a lower dosage, go high, and then regress, or?
I don't take a lot of, my dose, like for testosterone, I'll probably take about maybe a couple cc's twice a week or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you know, and a lot of people might take more or less or whatever, but testosterone, I've always, well, at a young age even, I was told to take as little as possible to get the effects that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's my first instinct is to do that with most of the drugs that I take.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there I would, you know, if 4 uses is not working for me, or if, like say, 200 milligrams is not doing good for me, and I'll be up to 400 milligrams, or, you know, or something like that. Or,
Do you have a formula, like a daily milligram allotment, or do you
I used to, and now it's just like, okay, Mondays and Thursdays I'm going to be doing this and that. I'm going to kick in this or whatever, and I'm also looking at the mirror, seeing, you know, over the years you learn how to, you know, say, hey, I'm holding a lot more water from, you know, this might be the reason, so I'm going to take that out and put this in, you know, sort of like a recipe or something.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, like in the off season with the more strength enhancing, the bulking type agents or drugs, give me some idea, if you would, please, if you would share with us some idea of the dosages of those things, and then we'll move on to the pre-contest.
Well, testosterone can be anywhere from, say, 600 milligrams, 800 milligrams a week of testosterone. Primobolan, I would like to take about, say, 400 milligrams a week. So like Equipoise, I would probably do like a full syringe full twice, 2-3 times a week.
Full syringe, meaning
It
like?
depends. Like say it depends. Like if it's like a 50 milligram deal or whatever. But you know, Equipoise it's not like really high on androgens, but it's like a mixture of both.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tend to just bring all it in, you know, cc's 2 to 3 times a week of that. If I was kicking in some growth hormone, then I would do say 4. I'll start off around 4 IUs per day, and work my way up to 9 or so.
The growth hormone does go up and then stops.
Well, yeah, you know, I like to go about 8 to 10 weeks with hormone. And then once you start to come off of it, you lose a little bit of water. But the size and the strength usually stays there pretty good with the growth hormone. And, you know, my off-season cycles, you know, I like to take around 4 to 5 different types of steroids at one time.
Is it like 2 androgenic and 2 anabolic, or
Yeah, I'd keep it pretty even like that.
off-season?
Yeah.
Okay. And as you move into the season, the heavier androgenics are come out to some degree?
Yeah, heavier that way, and then, but at the same time, you know, like for DECA even, I would probably do, say, about 400 milligrams, or 400 to 800 milligrams per week of the DECA alone.
And that's usually starting closer to the
Right,
contest.
exactly.
Okay, so before a contest, it might mean 8 weeks in, the DECA, you mentioned, I think, Winstrol?
Winstrol, yeah.
And that would be like cc's of that would be approximately?
See, that's, again, that's it's usually like 50 milligrams per bottle. You're taking about 2 or 3 bottles per time, like 3 times a week or so.
Okay. So if you're using 2 androgenics and 2 anabolics prior to, during the off-season, before the event, 8 weeks in, you're using more hardening agents, as you called it, or more anabolic. That would be how many agents, roughly? I know it changes from...
And then that depends on what's available at the time and what's in your budget for your competition. So let's say, you know, if you're training for a show and you have halotestin, cytogen, some type of
Halotestin.
halotestin, I like to take about 30 to 40 milligrams per day.
Okay.
Starting from about 5 weeks out or so.
Okay. Find it's a hardening type agent for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And cytogen, that's about 4 weeks out, and I'm starting out at 50 milligrams. And you start off at 1, going up to 2. You like to go 2 on, 1 off with that. And that's pretty hard on your system, so you want to kind of, you know, not stay on that too long. And then the cytogen, the cytogen also it's also needed for the extra body fat that you're burning, and also it works really well with the growth hormone also. And I would say a lot of people, you know, used to take a lot of Novadex and Provire and stuff like that for extra hardening effects. You know, I've used both of those at different times. And what else?
Well, okay. So many different ways to go in this.
Yeah.
I mean, so is there any time during the year when you for sure don't take steroids? And
right after, getting ready, coming down to competition, like the last week or so, discarded all the steroids, and you know, you tend to look a little harder because it's all making you hold some kind of water, some kind of in some kind of area.
Is there a number of months during the year that you don't take steroids at all?
Yeah, I've done that during the course of my career. I've taken a lot of time. Sometimes I'd do a 12-week cycle and I would go off for 12 weeks. You know, and I would.
So there's no exact estimate change.
Right. It changes, and as you develop and grow bigger, you start to change the way you do a lot of things and take a lot of different things, and you know.
Since we've been speaking about GH to some degree already, off-season and on-season, and we discussed drugs, steroids in terms of off-season versus on-season, and sort of your cyclic pattern, which changes a great deal. My next question would be insulin. Is that ever a consideration in your program?
Yes, I've used it for contest prep as far as starting my cycles off with you know, helping you gain a little bit more weight before you start to cut down. And it's, you know, really well. It's just really dangerous for a lot of people to use it, and you really have to know what you're doing if you're starting to step into that arena.
So you only take it when you're getting size?
I did that, but I also took it during, you know, a carb up phase during competition.
Okay, but you don't take it other than maybe the last week before a show then?
No, the last with last week, the last few days before the show.
And then maybe in the off season for how long?
For a few weeks. I never took a long cycle of it, and it's not my favorite thing to do. And
Okay.
dealing with all that stuff, you know, watching yourself if you're gonna fall asleep or not. It's just something that's really dangerous. It's really dangerous. And
About dosage as far as insulin?
dosages, I would go about, if I was gonna take it in all season, I was gonna do about three different times a day, and I'd space it out every 6 hours or so for about 12 to 15 IUs, I believe, or something.
Okay, I'm not sure the measurement either.
On a syringe, you're going to see 10, 20, 30.
Okay,
I would take within between the 10 and the 20.
okay.
No more than that, though.
And that was three times a day?
3 times a day, yeah.
Okay.
Early in the morning, then in the afternoon, and then in the evening.
Is it after workout, before workout?
I've done it. I've tried it that way also. I tried it in the middle of my workout even.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're timing it for within that 20 minutes, you're going to be done and you're going to start eating. And that seemed to work pretty good too. But I never really, you know, ventured off into getting really serious about doing the insulin deal.
Mm-hmm. So it was just sort of something you played with?
Yeah, I played with, but never really seriously seen the actual effects of what can be done or whatever. But I do know the dangerous sides of it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know, because I've seen a lot of people get a lot of bad reactions from it, and you know, put themselves in dangerous positions from it. I've seen it firsthand, so I do know not to mess with it too much.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, the next item I'd like to discuss with you would be the use of diuretics. Is that been something you've utilized?
Oh yeah, I've used that since I was a teenager. I started using it. I've never really had a problem with it. I never took a lot. I never took over 75 milligrams of like Aldactone.
Mm-hmm.
75 milligrams has been the most I've ever taken per day of that. My body's really sensitive to losing a lot of water.
Mm-hmm.
And I never had a lot of problems with cramping or anything like that a lot of people have associated with diuretic use.
The Aldactone is used the last week prior to a
I
show?
started, yeah, like the Tuesday
Mm-hmm.
on to the show.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, say, like a Friday or so, I would start with a little bit of diazide.
Mm-hmm.
And even on diazide capsule, I'd open it up and empty a little bit out of it. And so I wouldn't be as strong
Mm-hmm.
as normal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just something I've always been really sensitive about taking. Because it tends to take a lot of water out of the muscle also. You know, it's just as much as it takes it from between the muscle and the skin, you're going to lose a bit of size. And
Right.
so
Right.
I've never been, you know, a big fan on taking a lot of milligrams when it comes to diuretics.
Mm-hmm. But mainly prior to an event, you find that that's the Aldactone and the little diazide is effective?
Yeah, very effective, very effective. It's the difference between a couple placings if you didn't take it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Now that I understand they're testing for diuretics in the Olympia only, exclusively, how do you get around that?
No, they're doing it for
Okay.
most. Sometimes if you go to a show and they don't test it, you don't know about it though.
Huh.
And who's to say if they're really testing for it or
Mm-hmm.
not? But there are times when people have gotten caught for taking things.
Is there any specific way that or masking agent for diuretics or a way to get around being...
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Not that I know of. I think if you lower your sodium a lot more than normal,
Mm-hmm.
and play with that number and take a lot of the natural diuretics that's available over the counter,
Mm-hmm.
that with a combination with other things. It's hard to. I've used the insulin, and the insulin tends to suck a little bit of water from into the muscle from in between the skin and the muscle. So it helps the muscle fibers look as though the skin is tighter around it.
This is with...
I use insulin and the
diuretic?
with the natural diuretic.
I see.
With just all those together tend to give you a pretty good tight look.
Okay. So if you do take diuretics prior to a show, they're usually natural diuretics and not L-dactone or the diazide.
I've tried that also. I've tried it to where I stopped use of diuretics on that Wednesday, and I was tested on a Saturday, and it wasn't in my system. But then between the Wednesday and the Saturday, your water intake has to be at an all-time low. I tried that with taking, the only thing I drank from the Wednesday to the Saturday was a diuretic tea. I tried that, and it seemed to work pretty well. I only tried it once, though, and just trying different ways to, get the best results.
I guess my question would be, do you think the diuretic test is real?
I think it's real.
Okay.
I don't want to test, risk losing all the money or, it's not saying, because there's not much, discipline behind getting busted for it, but it's losing that money is that's the biggest thing at this point in time.
As a pro athlete, I understand, sure. Anything really scary ever happened to you with diuretic use or GH use or insulin use?
I mean, you feel the effects when you take insulin, as far as you get lightheaded, sweating a lot, you're scrambling to get some kind of sugar in your system or whatever. I've always had, when I got checkups for steroids, I've always had, great results from that. Everything's always been fine.
So you do recommend checkups?
Yeah, I definitely recommend checkups. Not so much right when you're in the competition phase, because you're taking a lot of different steroids, and the results you're going to get back is going to be pretty alarming, probably, because it's not going to be normal. But after you discard taking anything for, say, 6 to 8 weeks or so, and then you go to the doctor or whatever, then I think if everything's back to normal, I think you're doing pretty much the right thing. Some people are getting, some bad results as far as their different, the sperm count now and their liver panel results are coming back, still kind of high. That's, you need to take a look back and see, is this all worth it for you? Or, you're getting, is the push and shove is, really...
Is the risk worth the benefit? How do you feel about competing in today's arena, on today's stage?
Well, the only thing, the problem I have when people are acting like it's all about drugs, and it's it seems to put a bad taste in your mouth when you see people that they just really like to brag about it. They like to take steroids. They like to do this and that. Because I'm still one of the guys that like to push hard and train intensely, and I still want to see exactly what I can do as far as I can push myself to get the development that I was looking for, and from when I started this whole crusade.
Do you ever think to yourself that geez, I think we're pushing genetics to the ultimate edge, that it's getting pretty risky?
Sometimes, yeah.
Like when he has problems, or like Ahmed Benaziza or Andreas Moons, or does it like make you think, take 2 steps backwards and go, wait a minute?
Yeah, definitely. You have to. You'd be crazy not to. And you think that, oh, it won't happen to me. I think it could happen. It could happen to anyone.
And is there any suggestions, any words of wisdom you might give our viewers who are looking at you guys, that's where I want to be in life?
I think that, first of all, I would suggest, if you really don't have what it takes to be one of those guys, you need to really be honest with yourself and say, I could appreciate what they're doing, but it is not for me to step, that far into what's dangerous and what's, logical, what's good for yourself. And then, secondly, I suggest if you did, want to compete and you're not going to go pro and whatever, I wouldn't do anything dangerous, and I wouldn't do, if you plan on taking anything. First of all, I suggest not to, because it's better not to, and you live longer, and you're gonna, you're gonna have a lot easier life all around if you didn't. But if you did choose to, then I would suggest, take it as little as possible to get some results that you're looking for, like I said.
So you think the steroids and the GH and the insulin and other agents can limit your life and put more stress on your body?
I would assume.
Okay. I mean, I understand, of course, and I've been where you are. I retired some time ago, but I'm watching our sport progress, and it seems to have gotten to the point now where it's, I don't know, you should answer this rather than maybe, is it chemical warfare now?
In some ways, yeah, I would say, yeah. I mean, when you're out there away from home and you're taking different things, and I've been places and you get a lot of bloody noses and things of that nature. You sort of think, oh my God, what's going on? Or that can scare you after a while. On
an annual basis, if we look at the last few years back, understanding the growth hormone and the expense of that, I think you mentioned, up to 9 cc's.
9 IUs, yeah.
Oh, 9 IUs, I'm sorry. You can tell growth wasn't around when I was competing. At least it was around, but I bought a new car instead.
Right. Yeah.
What's the annual expenditure, approximately, on getting ready for an event? Can you put a rough number on that?
Close around 5,000 to some people might go up to 10,000 or so.
So you see,
at least 5,000.
That's even with the growth hormone being involved.
That's at a minimum, yeah.
So you say 5,000 to 10,000 minimum.
Yeah.
So it could go as high as.
Depends on the person,
I mean, I heard people say $100,000. I guess it's possible.
It can go up. But some of the things I've done with 5,000 in that area.
I understand.
That's all drug use, yeah. Depending on what kind of deals you're getting, and
what's available, and of course, how much the price of it, and.
Yeah. And like I said, it's, I don't think, and that's not even a big number for what I'm doing. That's what I've achieved on that amount of money of stuff is, I think it's pretty good.
In your view, do you think it would be healthier if it was not such a classified as a class 3 drug, and it was more through doctor, medical intervention?
In other countries, it's available like that, and have doctors and people that work closely with you, because people are gonna do it anyway. They're gonna do it no matter what the cost, no matter what kind of trouble you can get into. It's gonna happen. You see it every day. But it's not also in bodybuilding, but it's also in baseball and football and track and things like that. Sports like that, gymnastics, they're getting caught all the time, swimming and all that stuff.
You think it's worse now than it's ever been in all sports?
Definitely. There's junior high school kids taking pills and doing whatever, and it's amazing.
And how old do you think a person should be? They consider a possible steroid program. We're not making recommendations here, of course. We're not pro steroids. We're merely talking about reality. But
I would suggest educating yourself on as long as you can stand it, and wait as long as you can. If you can be in your mid-20s or upper 20s, then that'd be a lot better than starting off early teens and whatever.
Okay. So I understand you do have health concerns, and it makes total sense that you would have health concerns, and that you look at the risk versus the benefit, and this is your chosen profession, and you pursue it along those lines. I think every athlete I speak with feels the same way, and I hear that coming from you, a concern, but yet you're not out to commit suicide.
Right, exactly.
You're out to do it as strategically and as healthy as possible,
exactly,
in order to compete in that arena.
Right.
This stuff that we read about in the magazines called roid rage, does that really exist in your opinion?
I think it exists, but I think a lot of individuals that already have a temper, and it's just heightened. I think it's something you got to learn how to control. because it is an aggressive drug. It can make you really aggressive. You're already aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're going to be, you know, stand at risk and get really upset and not be able to control yourself. I remember the first 2 years when I was taking it, I had to, you know, I had to be like, wait a minute, you know, and a little bit more excited and, you know, it's just someone crossing the street, you know. You know? But it's, yeah, I think it's real. But I think people label a lot of people having roid rage when it's not really roid rage. I think you don't even have to be on a cycle to get really mad. People prove that every day in the news.
I think it enhances your natural aggressiveness,
Definitely.
you know, or your natural personality to some degree.
Definitely.
One of the things that I also want to discuss, would be masking agents of any kinds. I mean, granted, you're able to get around the diuretic test based upon, you know, limiting the time you're on certain diuretics and taking other situations. Are there any masking agents that you ever utilized that were of benefit?
No. No. You know, you hear about things, this and that, but I'm not one to try to take a chance on something like that.
How about things like escalene, where you inject into the muscle itself to temporarily in the tissue, and is that of any benefit in your protocol?
Yeah, that's definitely another benefit that people can, you know, probably put you up another spot or two if you had it, the escalene, and you had the right, put it in the right places, and, you know, but a lot of people are abusing different substances like that, and it just don't look, you know, it's not what we start out to do. If that was the case, then why even try to train your calves when you're just sticking them with all kinds of different things? And you know, I'm like I said, I still like to see what I can do myself. And
it makes me, when you said that, I still like to see what I could do myself. If there was a test where, you know, nobody could take anything, otherwise they'd be busted immediately. If there was a really, you know, test that would create a fair playing field, and if drugs were completely eradicated, would you be in favor of that?
oh, I love it. Yeah, let's see what we all can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I've often thought about that. You know, if we could really have a test where no one could really pass the test and use any kind of drugs, and they couldn't compete that way, and, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
I think a lot of people feel like you. It's like, especially the guys like yourself that, you know, they're doing real well. They're competing in you know, the top shows and placing real high, and it's like, you know, it's like it's getting old. You know.
Oh yeah, I would love that.
That's what I hear, and that's sort of the way I feel. But I'm not going to.
But just, you know, like I said, if everyone's following by the rules and everyone's gonna do, you know, exactly what, you know, just, yeah, that would be great.
Just an interesting point that you brought up that I sort of thought about for a second. Besides the you know, the drugs like the steroids and the GHs and the insulin and the diuretics, are there any other like androstenedione or anything like that you've utilized that would you feel is definitely worthy of calling a steroid-like substance?
I think androstenedione is good. I've tested myself and only using androstenedione for a period of time and training totally without steroids, and I would push some pretty good weight.
Do you ever use it in conjunction with the steroids?
No.
It's usually in the off season.
Yeah, definitely. If I were going to use androstenedione, I'd use it by itself.
In the off season, after you've been taking steroids, you know, during pre-season and the steroid contest is over, are there basically agents you use to bring your testosterone back to natural levels, or HCG, or?
Yeah, I've used HCG over the Clomid. I use those two
together.
I used them together before. I used you know, pretty good amounts of HCG. Yeah, it's good. You know, if you can get a hold of it or whatever. Then I just relax for a while and just take time off.
Just let it go back naturally.
Yeah.
What are like some of the amounts of Clomid or HCG? Or any idea of dosages? Do you recall?
Ooh, you can get like 10,000 I use the HCG, and I'll take that a couple times per week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Clomid would be like
Yeah,
tablet-wise?
yeah. I don't remember the milligrams on those, but I would take that every day for about a week or so. Maybe like 3 to 4 tabs a day for that.
Do you think Novadex is useful occasionally?
Yeah, but I guess recently a lot of people started to believe that it's toxic, pretty toxic to your liver, and you know, it's not exactly what people thought it was at first. So, and also had some way of fighting against your natural growth hormone levels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard that stated by a number of the guys. Yeah.
So people started shying away from the Novadex, and I'm one of them.
Is there anything other blocking agent like that you would consider in replacing Novadex?
There is, and it's slipping my mind right now.
Proviron?
No, there's another one. It's a 50 milligram drug.
Oh, the T.
Teslac.
Yes.
Teslac.
You think that's a worthy substance?
Oh yeah, that's really good.
And how long would you take that? A short duration?
Yeah, for the duration of your cycle. For the whole cycle, I would take that.
Oh, during the cycle?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. I see. So if you're
50 milligrams on up to 200 milligrams towards the end, close to competition.
And then do you just stop, or do you get off slowly? Or
I always get off slowly, and then I would just stop everything then.
So it's a 15-week cycle or something like that?
If you can get that much,
yeah.
Yeah.
So it might be something up to that.
If you can only get one bottle this time, then you know you can
deal with it.
that, yeah.
I understand. I understand. Did anything scary ever happen to you? That gave you an ill effect, or even a look that wasn't...
Yeah, one time I ended up, I tried to inject it to my calves to see what would happen if they were, you know, fuller looking and, you know, this and that, but I injected into it. It was, you know, really painful time, and it was,
what was it you injected?
it was a regular testosterone.
Oh.
It wasn't even like I mean, not like a swelling size type thing.
Right.
But people nowadays are shooting like all over their bodies, from biceps to triceps to. I think you really need to be for what you're doing, because you know you don't know what's under. You like, you know, you're shooting in the dark, you know, and it's really dangerous. You can hit some nerves or create some damage. You have no idea what you're gonna do, you know. But you know, some of my calf is, I don't know if the muscle is atrophied a little right there. So like the muscle's not really there anymore. So that was enough for me right there. I don't do anything like that anymore.
Some kind of tissue damage.
Yeah, tissue damage. It's not. It's not what I was meant to do.